happening, everybody? So I took the Challenger for its maiden trip down the drag strip, and I wanted to give you guys my impressions of how the car did, how it fared against the competition, how I set up the car to take it to the track, and let's get started with this. Oh, also I wanted to go over the settings. The SRT guys can adjust some suspension settings and some transmission settings, and I'll let you know what those transmission and suspension settings were. The car ran, once I got the settings sorted out as far as what the car was going to like, the car ran a string of 1260s. Mile an hour was just under 111 for most of the night. I did have one pass where it did go 111. So those are the ETs. That's what times that it ran. Again, mid 12.6s. So 1266, kind of a high 12.6, 1268, 1268. So basically 1260s most of the night. There was one pass that I was shifting it manually. I wanted to see if that would make a difference in terms of ET or mile an hour. And I bumped the rev limiter on the 2-3 shift, which is a shame because that actually had one of the better 60 foots of the night. Density altitude was right around 2250. So that'll give you an idea as far as if you are taking your car to the track, how your car fares against mine in terms of density altitude correction. The actual conditions of the night, temperature was about 87 degrees with about a 100% humidity. So that humidity was obviously killing a little bit of power, but it was also killing track prep as well. So that would have lent itself to my mid 190 60 foots. And it was all I could do to get it to hook up to run those mid 190 60 foots. So the car setup, it has got stock Pirelli all-season tires. They're not the summer tires. I ran it with a very full tank of gas and with the speaker box for you guys with the Challengers with the Harman Kardon system. Yes, I did run with the speaker box in the trunk, but it only weighs about 14 pounds, so it's not that big of a weight penalty. Oh, and getting back to the tires, tire pressure is at 32. I didn't try to cheat that down at all. As far as technique getting the car down the track, I ran the car in full traction off mode. And again, the settings for the SRT guys, full soft on the suspension and in sport mode for the transmission. The car didn't really seem to like track mode too much. Might have just been in the launch technique, but it didn't make any difference in terms of mile an hour, and it didn't make any difference in terms of ET. However, it did have a kind of a bit more of a tendency to spin a little bit in second gear, and so I just switched it off, went back to sport. But those are the settings. It did not like running with traction control on in any setting. So sport mode, the nanny would kick in a little bit on that 1-2 shift. Track mode, it would do it a little bit too, but not as much. So at the track, somewhat of a prepared surface, at least some semblance of a prepared surface. The car liked traction completely off. So what I did in terms of burnout, just so you guys know, I just did a cleanup. Obviously traction control and full off. I kick the selector over into manual, foot on the brake, light the tires up in first gear, pull second gear, let it sit at about 4,500 RPM for a couple of seconds, and then rolled off the throttle, let it coast forward, throw it into drive, and let the transmission do its thing. So again, car ran 1260s in that configuration very consistently. Now, how it stacked up against the competition, not upset with it at all. The car did very well against the competition. In fact, I didn't have any real issues either keeping up with or beating, the normal cars that you would see down there, Mustangs, Camaros. But here's the thing. Everybody was having traction issues. On a better night with better track prep, with better temperatures, I think some of the newer cars would have been able to ET quite a bit better, but for the most part, guys were having a hard time, especially the guys with 6-speed cars. That 1-2 shift was killing them, and for some of the higher powered cars, that 2-3 shift was actually killing them. You'd see the guys go into third, and they'd actually have to roll out of it, and in some cases abort the run just because they would have too much wheel spin. So again, track prep did play a part in that, but she's heavy. And traction is based on weight, and this car has no problem getting traction on that 2-3 shift. And to be honest with you guys, nobody was running really decent times that night. Most of the folks that I had talked to were running about right at about 3/10 off of what their car would normally run, and about 4/10 off of some of their personal bests. So Mustangs that you would typically expect to run 12.5s were running about 12.8. Some of the newer Camaros that you'd expect to run in the 12.30, 12.40 range were running in the 12.50, 12.60 range. There are a few vets that you would expect to be in the mid 12s that were running in the 12.80s. So again, you can see how that's progressing. Everybody was about 0.3 of a second off. The Challenger absolutely held its own great, ran flawlessly all night. Now, one thing I wanted to test when I was at the track was intake air temperature. There's been a lot of chatter on some of the boards and forums about how that affects the performance of the car. So what I did on a couple of those 1260 passes is I actually let the car sit and idle for quite a while as I was pulling into the staging area. And the highest intake air temperature that I had seen before I actually started the burnout was 164. And on that pass, I didn't note it on the time slip, but it was another one of the 1260 passes. The lowest intake air temperature that I saw was 123. And on that pass, again, 1260. So it didn't really make much of a difference in terms of how the car ran going down the track. As far as mile per hour, didn't affect that. And so the ETs weren't that affected. So for you guys that were concerned or looking at that intake air temperature on your Challengers, it is one of the gauges you can read, and it might kind of give you some anxiety, but don't worry too much about it. I didn't notice any real difference, at least on the night that I was running my car. It made no difference whatsoever. I did not try to idle the car, or I'm sorry, to push the car up into the burnout box, and I didn't really let it cool down too much either. Basically, I just ran the car about as much as I could throughout the course of the night to try to get some data and try to learn the platform and learn what this car is going to like on a launch. That's about it. Those are that was my experience with the car at the track. Post up how you guys are doing and what techniques y'all are using to get y'all's down the track. Again, with this one, 1 second, loaded up to about 1,000 RPM at the tree, and then about a 1 second roll onto that throttle. That's the best way I could try to get the thing out of the hole. You guys are doing something different, let me know. Also, if for you guys that are running drag radials or any other drag style tire, are you guys doing anything different? What tires are you guys running? And what times are you getting out of your cars? That's it. Adios.